Ready? I have not seen the Himalayas, but I have seen Sheikh Mujib. In personality and in courage, this man is the Himalayas. I have thus had the experience of witnessing the Himalayas. Embracing Bangabandhu Sheikh Mujibur Rahman at the non-aligned summit in Algiers in 1973, this was the remark of Fidel Castro. This is how we could understand the magnanimity of Bangabandhu's personality. Distinguished guests, respected panelists, colleagues, ladies and gentlemen, a very good morning to you all of today's seminar. With kind approval of Bangladesh High Commissioner in Canada, His Excellency Dr. Khalilur Rahman, I, Dewan Hosne Ayub, Minister, on behalf of Bangladesh High Commission to Canada, welcome you all of today's seminar. The topic of the today's seminar is Mujib Borsho, Bangladesh's success in inclusive development. Ladies and gentlemen, Bangabandhu Sheikh Mujibur Rahman, the founding father of Bangladesh, was on the world political and diplomatic stage for less than 4 years after leading his country to independence. But in that short span of time between mid-January 1972 and mid-August 1975, his great statesmanship, insight, and valor enabled Bangladesh to be firmly established in the Committee of Nations. Bangabandhu became a leader revered by leaders across the world. Bangabandhu's leadership qualities, supreme dedication, aspiration, and sacrifice made him not only an iconic leader of Bangladesh, but also turned him into a great statesman beyond political personality adored by the then global leaders. Distinguished guests, when Bangabandhu was returning to Bangladesh for the first time from Pakistan imprisonment, he came back to Bangladesh via London and Delhi. When the then British Prime Minister Sir Edward Heath, at that time he was not in London city, but when he learned that Bangabandhu is coming, he rushed back to London, Downing Street, to receive Bangabandhu. When Bangabandhu reached Downing Street, Sir Edward Heath opened the door of the car of Bangabandhu, a scene hardly seen at the doorsteps of 10 Downing Street. Replying to the criticism of the British media about his personal warm reception, Sir Edward Heath replied, "I welcomed not only a leader, I welcomed a world statesman who created a country and a nation." A Western journalist, Cyril Dunn, also observed about Bangabandhu, saying, "His physical stature was immense, his voice was redolent of thunder, his charisma worked magic on people, the courage and charm that flowed down from him made him a unique superman in this time." The world statesman that was Bangabandhu. He always dreamed of building a secular Bangladesh where people of all religions would live in peace and harmony. As Bangabandhu used to say, "My strength is that I love human beings. My weakness is I love them too much." Distinguished guests, starting from language movement to all major movements of Bengali nation, including United Front elections in 1954, anti-Ayub movement in 1958, the education movement in 1962, the 6-point movement in 1966, the Agartala conspiracy case in 1968, the mass upsurge in 1969, the general elections in 1970, and the War of Liberation in 1971 were led by none other than the father of the nation, Bangabandhu Sheikh Mujibur Rahman. In fact, he united all the freedom aspiring Bengalis during the liberation war. Bangabandhu boldly faced major challenges of nation building by establishing a people-centric balanced public administration, resumption of communication network and infrastructure destroyed during the liberation war, rehabilitating the refugees and violated women, controlling the law and order situation, repatriating the stranded Bangladeshis from Pakistan. Bangabandhu formulated 5-year plan for economic development. The GDP growth rate reached 7%. Just within 3 years, Bangabandhu turned Bangladesh into least developed country from a war-ravaged country. Distinguished guests, today's seminar is one of the parts of the program to celebrate Bangabandhu's birth centenary that already started last year and will continue till December this year. We have also celebrated Bangabandhu's 101 birthday anniversary yesterday, and the significance, as we know, is that the celebrating birth centenary is immense because we are also going to celebrate the golden jubilee of our national and independence day, which will be just after a few days on 26 March 2021. This year is really historic, and we all are fortunate to bear the legacy of charismatic leader Bangabandhu. We are also fortunate enough to carry forward the mark for the next generation to the coming century. The moment is really historic. We all are passing through the historic time once again. Distinguished guests, since we are celebrating birth centenary of Bangabandhu, now we are going to screen a documentary titled Those Golden Days. The documentary is on the contribution and sacrifice and life of Bangabandhu. Now we are going to watch the documentary.
A dark, deep shadow cast a pall of gloom on the life of Bengalis following the defeat of the sovereign Nawab of Bengal, Sirajuddaula, in the Battle of Polashi in 1757. But Bengalis never ever bowed down to the defeat. Great warriors came out in defiance like Khudiram, Masterda Surya Sen, Pritilota Wadedar, Subhash Chandra Bosu, A.K. Fazlul Haq, Hussain Shahid Sohrawardi, and Maulana Bhashani. Following a protracted war of resistance, the British rule came to an end in 1947. But the independence of Bengalis remained incomplete. We had to shed our blood in 1952 for the demand of a language and culture. Sheikh Mujib was then a young student leader. Though very much sober, he was adamant to accomplish his aim. He was ousted from university for voicing in favor of common masses. Upon being elected as General Secretary of Awami League in 1952, he set forth the advancement of the province's popular movement. The United Front was formed in 1954. Though winning a landslide victory in provincial elections, the United Front government was sacked and Mujib was arrested. Released from prison in 1966, he declared the Charter of Emancipation of the People, the historic six-point demand, and again he was arrested. But the autocratic rulers were compelled to free him in the wake of a mass movement. Released in 1969, Mujib was crowned by the people with the honor of Bongo Bundhu. An unprecedented tidal surge and cyclone completely battered the country's entire coastal regions in 1970. Leaving election campaigns aside, Mujib rushed to the storm affected people. In the same year's general elections, Awami League, under Mujib's able leadership, won a thumping victory. But by conspiracy, Bengalis were denied of the legitimate right to self-determination. Following that turbulent political storm, Bangabandhu gave the Declaration of Independence in the 7th March historic public meeting at Dhaka. Marking the end of centuries' struggle, walking upright like Tagore, at last he reached the podium, as if a poet tuned to the hymn offered his endless verses.
এবারে সংগ্রাম আমাদের মুক্তির সংগ্রাম এবারে সংগ্রাম স্বাধীনতার সংগ্রাম
Upon his call, the countrywide non-cooperation movement assumed an unprecedented momentum. The Pakistani rulers made farce of a so-called dialogue and let loose the army in the fateful Black Night of 25th March 1971. Before getting arrested the same night, Bangabandhu declared the War of Independence through a formal statement that read, "The Pakistani army has attacked Pilkhana EPR base and Rajarbagh police line and killed the city's people. Resistance is going on in Dhaka and Chittagong. I'm appealing to the nations of the world. Our freedom fighters are at war to liberate our motherland. In the name of Allah, the Almighty, go on with this struggle till the last drop of your blood. Seek assistance from the EPR, Bengal Regiment, and Ansars, and victory will be ours. Get the last enemy be driven out of a holy motherland." Send this message to Awami League leaders and workers and to all patriotic and independence-loving people. Let Allah take care of you. Joy Bangla. 10th April 1971. The close associates of Bangabandhu formed the Bangladesh government in exile with him as the president. On 17th April, the government in exile took oath at the mango orchard of Boidunath Tola, Kushtia. The armed struggle for the liberation of Bangladesh began under the supervision of Sayyid Nazrul Islam, Tajuddin Ahmed, Captain Mansoor Ali, and A.H.M. Kamruzaman.
জয় বাংলা জয় বাংলা
The murderous Pakistani killers spared no Bengalis. Even women and children fell victim of their mindless massacre and by their collaborators like Rajakars, Al-Badrs and Al-Shams. This genocide and atrocity took the world's conscience by stunning surprise. At last, on December 16, 1971, following an ocean of misery and sacrifice of lives and chastity of hundreds of thousands during the 9 months unprecedented war of liberation, did Bangladesh emerge as an independent country, and the victory was finally won.
ভেঙেছো দুয়ার এসেছো জ্যোতির্ময় তোমারই হোক জয় তিমির বিদার উদার ভুদায় তোমারই হোক
Bangabandhu returned to Bangladesh on 10 January 1972 from Pakistani prison. The exuberant people of Bangladesh were so happy getting the leader back to them.
আমার বাংলাদেশ আজ স্বাধীন হয়েছে, আমার জীবনের স্বাদ আজ পূর্ণ হয়েছে, আমার বাংলা মানুষ আজ মুক্ত হয়েছে।
Bangladesh took a tough challenge by taking over the reign of office, for the murderous Pakistani troops and their collaborators had left the country into a heap of devastation. All that were left was a completely broken infrastructure. He had to take responsibility of rehabilitating 30 million families. At the same time, he had to reinstate almost 500,000 military and civil Bengali people stranded in Pakistan after taking them back home. In the very first cabinet meeting held on 14 April 1972, all the dues and interest on land revenue were exempted. Removal of tax on salt and distribution of land among the rural landless was indeed a revolutionary step at that time. The famous Green Revolution in the agricultural sector was initiated during his reign. Bangabandhu went out to the field to work by himself, and a whole nation stood by him in the stride for national reconstruction.
বাংলার হিন্দু বাংলার বৌদ্ধ বাংলার খ্রিস্টান বাংলার মুসলমান আমরা সবাই বাঙালি বাংলার হিন্দু বাংলার বৌদ্ধ বাংলার খ্রিস্টান.
The draft constitution of the country was enacted in the Legislative Council on 4th November 1972 based on 4 stale principles like democracy, nationalism, socialism, and secularism. Thus, a historic commitment was fulfilled.
দুনিয়ার ইতিহাসে বিপ্লবের পরে কেউ শাসনতন্ত্র 11 মাসে দিতে পারে নাই। এই বাংলার মাটিতে আওয়ামী লীগ ও আমরা দিয়েছি। আপনাদের দলিল জনগণের অধিকারের দলিল 25 বছর কত সংগ্রাম করছে এই দলিলের জন্য, সেই দলিল বাংলার মানুষ আজ পেয়েছে।
As Bangabandhu issued an appeal, the valiant freedom fighters of the country responded by surrendering their firearms willingly. They devoted their potentials to rebuild the country, by which once they waged a fierce battle against the occupation army. A number of programs were initiated for the unemployed youths of the country. At Bangabandhu's instruction, India pulled out all its troops from Bangladesh. Due to an all-out search of the people, their struggle, and those of the able ministers, the new Bangladesh could be rebuilt. তারা বলে গেল ভাষাই ধর্ম ভাষাই মোদের মান কয়েকটি ছেলে বাংলা ভাষার চরণে দিল প্রাণ তারা বলে গেল ভাষাই ধর্ম ভাষাই মোদের মান মাইকেল বিশ্বকবি The war-injured freedom fighters were given medical treatment, and the women tortured during the war were given the honor of valiant warriors. He did give due importance to the basic rights like healthcare. Bangabandhu took bold initiatives for empowering women of the country.
নারীদের বিষয়ে বঙ্গবন্ধুর যে ভাবনা ছিল এবং নারীদের ক্ষমতায়নে তার যে আন্তরিকতা ছিল সেটার প্রমাণ কিন্তু আমরা অত্যন্ত চমৎকারভাবে পেয়েছি আমাদের সংবিধানে। প্রথমত সংবিধানে বলা হয়েছে যে বাংলাদেশের মূল লক্ষ্য ও উদ্দেশ্যই থাকবে প্রতিটি মানুষের মানবিক মর্যাদা এবং অধিকার রক্ষা করা, এবং নারীদের জন্য বিশেষভাবে বলা হয়েছে যে নারীরা যেন জনজীবনে সবার সঙ্গে সমান অধিকার ভোগ করতে পারে। আমরা যদি সংবিধানের সেই মূল নীতিগুলি হৃদয় দিয়ে আন্তরিকতা দিয়ে যদি আমরা পুনঃপ্রবর্তন করতে পারি, বঙ্গবন্ধু সেই সময় নারীর অধিকারের ব্যাপারে যে চিন্তা ভাবনাগুলি করেছিলেন, যেটা অবশ্যই এসেছিল মানুষের আন্দোলনের মাধ্যমে, নারী আন্দোলনের মাধ্যমে, কিন্তু বঙ্গবন্ধু ছিলেন বলেই সেই আন্দোলনের যে মূল কথাগুলি ছিল, যে দাবিগুলি ছিল, সেটা এত সহজে সংবিধানে সন্নিবেশিত হতে পেরেছিল।
Bangabandhu wanted to develop the country through establishing an exploitation-free society. He founded education policy directives like Dr. Kudrat-e-Khuda Commission. Major reforms were undertaken in education sector like free primary education for all, establishment of 11,000 new schools, and nationalization of as many as 40,000 schools.
বঙ্গবন্ধু চেয়েছিলেন যে স্বাধীন বাংলাদেশে স্বাধীন নাগরিকদের উপযোগী শিক্ষা ব্যবস্থা প্রবর্তিত হোক। এর জন্য ডক্টর মোহাম্মদ কুদরত-এ-খোদাকে সভাপতি করে তিনি একটি শিক্ষা কমিশন গঠন করেন। আমি তার একজন সদস্য ছিলাম। আমাদের দুর্ভাগ্য যে বঙ্গবন্ধুর জীবদ্দশায় এই শিক্ষা কমিশনের রিপোর্ট সরকারিভাবে গৃহীত হলো না, এবং বঙ্গবন্ধু হত্যার পর এই রিপোর্ট একরকম ফেলে দেওয়া হলো। কিন্তু আমার দৃঢ় বিশ্বাস যে বঙ্গবন্ধু যা চেয়েছিলেন, যদি তিনি একটু সময় পেতেন, যদি শেষকালে এই খাদ্য সংকট এবং অন্যান্য চাপ তার উপরে এত প্রবল হয়ে না বসতো, তাহলে এই শিক্ষা কমিশনের রিপোর্ট তিনি গ্রহণ করতেন এবং শিক্ষা ক্ষেত্রে আমরা একটা নতুন সূচনা করতে।
In the election manifesto of 1970, Awami League committed to build an exploitation-free and poverty-free society through equitable distribution of economic resources. In tune to this, Bangabandhu declared a new economic policy on 26 March 1972, which called for nationalization of banks, insurance and other industries, airlines, shipping, and all enterprises left. The low-income group workers and employees of government and autonomous bodies were made to ensure huge employment scope.
বঙ্গবন্ধু যখন দায়িত্বভার গ্রহণ করলেন, তখন কিন্তু আমাদের $1 রিজার্ভ ছিল না। এমনকি IMF এর সদস্য হবার জন্যে যেই পরিমাণ আমাদের চাঁদা দেওয়ার দরকার ছিল, সেই অর্থটিও কিন্তু বিদেশি মুদ্রাও আমাদের হাতে ছিল না। এই সময়টায় তিনি কেন্দ্রীয় ব্যাংকটাকে পুনর্গঠন করলেন এবং একই সঙ্গে সমস্ত ব্যাংকিং সেক্টরকে তখন তিনি জাতীয়করণ করলেন। যেভাবে তিনি অর্থনৈতিক মুক্তি আনতে চাচ্ছিলেন স্বদেশের জন্যে, সেরকম ফাইন্যান্সিয়াল সেক্টর অর্থাৎ আর্থিক খাতের উপরে সেই ধরনের নিয়ন্ত্রণের কিন্তু প্রয়োজন ছিল। সব দিক থেকে চিন্তা করলে মনে হয় তিনি অত্যন্ত দূরদর্শী একজন অর্থনৈতিক চিন্তক ছিলেন এবং সেইভাবেই স্বদেশকে পরিচালনা করবার জন্য পরিকল্পনা করেছেন এবং নিজে সেটা বাস্তবায়নও করবার উদ্যোগ নিয়েছিলেন।
Bangladesh's first general election took place on 7th March 1973, in which Awami League won an unprecedented landslide.
Distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, we have watched the documentary. Now we are going to begin our today's seminar, and I believe that we all are waiting to listen our respected panelists today. So at this point, Rashid, he will deliver his speech. But before that, I just want to give a very brief Professor Dr. Harun Rashid was born in Borishal district. He obtained his bachelor's and master's degree from the University of Dhaka. He earned his PhD degree from the University of London in 1983. He was engaged in postdoctoral research at the Institute of Commonwealth Studies in University of London during 1992 to 1993 under Commonwealth Academic Staff Fellowship. In 1979, Dr. Rashid started his career as a lecturer in political science, University of Chittagong. He became an assistant professor in 1984. He returned to the University of Dhaka as assistant professor in 1985. He went on to become associate professor and professor of political science in 1990 and 1995 respectively. At the University of Dhaka, Dr. Rashid served as the Pro-Vice Chancellor. Later, he became the Vice Chancellor of National University, Bangladesh. At this point, let me invite Professor Dr. Harun Rashid Sir to kindly present his tone.
1971 on 26 of March. So we did delegation are celebrating year, and the month of March is very special, very dear to every Bengali. Uh, respected chair and distinguished participants, I have written in a paper with me, and this will give you a brief overview of the political development that took place in Bangladesh during the last 50 years, and with a focus on the theme of today's celebration, success in development. Let me read out my keynote paper. Before I go to read it out, I would like to express my deep gratitude and indebtedness to His Excellency Mr. Khalilur Rahman, Dr. Khalilur Rahman, the High Commissioner of Bangladesh to Canada, for inviting me to present a keynote paper. Before I start reading my keynote paper, I would like to recall and express my deepest gratitude and respect to the memory of the founding father of the Bengali nation, the Bangabandhu Sheikh Mujib Rahman, and those who sacrificed their lives during the War of Liberation in the year 1971 for the cause of our independence. Now, I take the privilege to present my keynote paper. As you know, the title of the paper is Bangladesh's Success in Inclusive Development. Inclusive development is a process which involves all strata of population, replete with respective interests, regardless of faith, languages, regions, color, sex, age, and so on. In other words, it may be defined as an equitable distribution of resources in a state and society to ensure a minimum standard of life for everybody. Bangladesh, a country in South Asia, came into being as an independent state in 1971 out of the dismemberment of Pakistan through a war of liberation under the leadership of the father of the nation, Bangabandhu Sheikh Mujibur Rahman. Immediately after independence, upon himself the task of rehabilitation and reconstruction of the war-ravaged country, holding the office of Prime Minister of the government in a Westminster-type multi-party competitive parliamentary democracy. In the aftermath of the successful armed struggle for liberation, the emergent situation was not at all congenial to the working of competitive democracy, essentially because of radicalization of politics and heightening of aspirations. Against the most hostile environment, Bangabandhu left no stone unturned to practice a democratic system in which he had profound faith and for which he fought relentlessly throughout the Pakistani period, that is from 1947 to 1971. Meanwhile, to everybody's surprise, Bangabandhu was able to set the newborn republic on a solid foundation within a short time, in the midst of a most world's one of the best from liberation. The Indian Allied Forces returned home very soon. Commonwealth, non-allied, YC, centralization and decentralization of administration or participatory local self-government. Then he succumbed to assassins' bullets on 15th of August 1975, including every member of his family present. Altogether, 18 members sacrificed their lives. As a part of an organized conspiracy, following the brutal killing of the father of the nation, Bangabandhu Sheikh Mujibur Rahman, Bangladesh had been through military rule for about 15 years under General Zia and General Shah. The pro-Zia government, headed by his widow, Begum Khaleda Zia, ruled Bangladesh for about 10 years intermittently, that is, during 1991 to 1995, again 2001 to 2006, in alliance with the anti-liberation forces, especially the Jamaat-e-Islami, a religion-based party. Further, from 2007 to 2008, there was a 2-year military rule under the guard of a so-called caretaker government headed by a civilian, namely Dr. Fakhruddin Ahmed. These 27 years, that is 15 years military rule, plus 10 years, plus 2 years, altogether 27 years out of 50 years of Bangladesh's independent existence, marked an era of degeneration and decadence by any standard. The country moved on to the backward direction after the Pakistani model: military rule, civil military bureaucratic control, anti-Indianism, and communalization of politics, etc. Only with the ascendancy of political leadership of the surviving elder daughter of the father of the nation, who is the incumbent Prime Minister of Bangladesh government, namely Sheikh Hasina MP, that a rollback along the ideals of the war of liberation, that is democracy, government. After a gap of 5 years, she has been in government for 3 consecutive terms from 2009 onwards. Like her father, she is endowed with an inclusionary policy in her development goals, with a special focus on the downtrodden people. The achievement that Bangladesh has been able to acquire under our totally dedicated and creative leadership include, inter alia, self-sufficiency in food production, reduction of poverty from 44% to 21%, and that of extreme poverty from 22% to 11%, significant reduction in child and maternal mortality, healthcare services for rural people through 18,000 plus community clinics, power supply covering 95% territories of the country with a production capacity of 24,000 megawatt a day as against only 3,200 megawatt in 2005. Over 6% continued rate of growth for a decade. US 2064 dollar per capita income against only 100 US dollar per capita income in 1972. Social security for vulnerable groups such as the extreme poor, disabled, old, widow, women left alone by their husbands and so on. Empowerment of women, job opportunity and participation of women in all sectors of services, mobile financial services, microcredit financing for the poor, especially women, explosion in R&D and education sectors, including tertiary education, 10% enrollment of school-going boys and girls, decrease in dropouts, distribution of textbooks free of cost among students up to grade 10 or equivalent on the first day of the academic session, the braille system of education for the eyesight impaired, free textbooks for the indigenous students in their own mother tongues, quota for the indigenous boys and girls in college, university admissions and services, shelters for the homeless, increase in life expectancy from 27 years during the Pakistani period to 73 years at present, increase in rate of literacy to 73% plus as against only 70% during the Pakistani time, restoration of the ideals of secularism in the constitution, success in disaster management, the construction of the world's one of the longest bridges over the river the Padma, that is 6.15 kilometer length, out of the country's own resources, suppression of the rise of Islamic militancy with a strong hand, signing of the CST Peace Accord in 1997, which ended a warlike situation prevailing there for about 2 decades, third-party intervention, Delta Plan 2100 for Bangladesh, graduation of Bangladesh to a developing country by the UN, etc. The Prime Minister Sheikh Hasina is a visionary leader. She has set the goal of Bangladesh as to emerge as a hunger, poverty-free, developed and prosperous country in fulfillment of the dream of Sonar Bangla of the father of the nation by the year 2041. During the War of Liberation and the aftermath, many pundits of the world spoke of about the non-viability of Bangladesh as an independent entity. The US Secretary of State Henry Kissinger once made a most derogatory and oft-quoted statement that Bangladesh would be an international basket case or a bottomless basket. Against such an observation, not only is Bangladesh maintaining its existence as an independent entity over the years, but also celebrating the birth centenary of the father of the nation, Bangabandhu Sheikh Mujibur Rahman, and the Golden Jubilee of independence at 50 this year in a befitting manner with high hopes, dignity, and confidence. To utter surprise for many countries in the world, the pace of development of Bangladesh over the years in different fields, such as women empowerment, social security for the marginalized groups of people, disaster management, construction of the Padma Bridge, out of own resources, 1% continued rate of growth for a decade, so to speak, few is a great wonder. Last but not least is the handling of the COVID-19 pandemic situation, including speedy vaccination for the people, much well ahead of even of many developed countries in the world, in the West. For many countries in the world, Bangladesh is an example setter in matter of inclusionary development. 46 years ago, while launching his system change program under second revolution, that is in the month of January 1975, the father of the nation, Bangabandhu Sheikh Mujibur said that I quote, once and for all, the suffering of the people of Bangladesh will be ended. Since we have people, we have fertile land, and if we can carry on our program honestly, then the sufferings of the people will be over very soon. That what he said while he was launching his second revolution program, India 1975, by saying, I quote, I can see a bright future of my country. And he made this statement, India 1975, preceded by famine in Bangladesh, India 1974. Immediately after the famine, he made this statement that I can see a bright future of my country. He further predicted that many developed countries in the world would follow Bangladesh in many respects. His predictions have come true. Bangladesh achieved her independence at the cost of a sea of blood through a war of liberation against the brute Pakistani occupation army, in which 3 million people sacrificed their lives. Such a hard-earned independent country cannot and must not remain in the backseat. The inherent resilience and potentialities of the nation would make the country a great. To echo the father of the nation's words that there is a bright future of Bangladesh. Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you all.
Thank you, sir, for your very informative and concrete speech. In fact, we learned many of the basic facts and figures from your speech. Now, at this moment, I would like to invite Gillian Frost. Let me give a very brief about her. Miss Gillian Frost, right now, she is the Executive Director of the South Asia Division, covering political, trade, development for India, Bangladesh, Sri Lanka, Nepal, Bhutan, and Maldives. Previously, Gillian was the head of the political economic section. Other assignments overseas included Afghanistan from 2011 as deputy head of the political section and Geneva from 2006 to 2009. Gillian worked on disarmament and arms control issues. Gillian received her honors Bachelor of Arts in Political Science, specialization in International Relations from the University of, and her Master of Arts in Political Science, specialization in International Relations from McMaster University. She also has a degree in piano performance from the Royal
minus
steadfast. He was steadfast in his vision. He was driven by his enduring patriotism, and he inspired a nation of people through the struggle for independence and instilled pride in the Bangla language and Bengali identity. There is much that Bangladesh has to be proud of, and we're very, very proud as Canada to have stood with Bangladesh during this time as well. I'm going to speak a little bit about the historical relationship that we've had with Bangladesh, leading to what our current relationship is with Bangladesh across a number of areas, and that also includes on the development side. Canada bore witness to the tremendous suffering of the Bangladeshi people. During the War of Independence in 1971, Canada extended our support and humanitarian assistance to the Bangladeshi people in their time of need. When Sheikh Mujib Borsho was imprisoned for his political activism, our former Prime Minister, Trudeau, that is the father of our current Prime Minister, was outspoken about his legitimate role as a spokesperson for the Bengali people. Following the end of the war, Canada was one of the first countries to officially recognize the independent state of the People's Republic of Bangladesh on 14 February 1972. As I indicated yesterday, our Prime Minister paid homage to this historical legacy and friendship between his father and Bangabandhu in a video address to Prime Minister Sheikh Hasina and the Bangladeshi people. Sheikh Mujib Borsho not only saw his vision for an independent Bangladesh come to fruition, but his efforts have shaped the foundation of the Bangladesh that we know today. This foundation is rooted in peace, secularism, and democracy, values that Canada also holds dearly. It is a vision that is still relevant today, 50 years later. With what is happening around the world globally, his vision further underscores the importance of continuing our efforts to hold these values through the promotion and protection of freedoms, human rights, and the rule of law. Beyond this, Prime Minister Rahman's leadership and forward-looking foreign policy not only focused on nation building at home, but on creating close and cooperative ties with countries around the world, including Canada. He recognized the opportunities beyond Bangladesh's borders and led the country's engagement on the world stage. At the time as Prime Minister, he embraced multilateral relationships, a value which Canada encouraged through our support for Bangladesh's membership in the Commonwealth of Nations and later the United Nations. Canada was honored to host Prime Minister Rahman at that time for 9 days during the Commonwealth Heads of Government meeting in August 1973. And we've been pleased to be able to share some of these historical photos with the government of Bangladesh. We continue to honor this legacy of global cooperation as we work alongside one another across international fora to combat some of the most pressing global issues today, including climate change, advancing peacekeeping, and support to the rights of women and girls. Beyond the multilateral relationship, our bilateral relationship also continues to expand. We continue to strengthen our growing commercial partnership. We have very strong people-to-people ties rooted in approximately 100,000 Canadians of Bangladeshi origin. And I think, the event last night that the High Commission hosted was demonstrative from the audience of those strong people-to-people ties that exist in Canada. And of course, our development cooperation that extends to independence. We have seen sustained growth in our bilateral trade over the last 15 years, which has continued in a positive trajectory, reaching $2.77 billion in 2020, despite the pandemic. This expanding partnership is especially important to Canada's agricultural sector, with Canadian exports of agricultural commodities surpassing $1 billion in 2020. We were pleased in the past year to launch the first of its kind initiative based on science, technology, and innovation between the Global Institute for Food Security at the University of Saskatchewan and the Bangladesh Agricultural Research Council. This initiative brings together the establishment of an agricultural technology center, which through its naming honors the friendship between former Prime Minister Pierre Trudeau and Bangabandhu. The breadth of our relationship further deepens through our continued collaboration on many issues of mutual importance, including migration, gender equality, and reform of the ready-made garment sector. Much of this collaboration is underpinned by Canada's development program, which is aligned with both the government of Bangladesh's priorities and Canada's feminist international assistance policy. In terms of our development partnership with Bangladesh, since 1972, we have been a steadfast partner, having contributed over $4 billion in development assistance. And we are very proud to have played a part in Bangladesh's remarkable progress into a development success story. As a reliable development partner, Canada has contributed to Bangladesh's growth in key areas, including access to primary education, skills for youth, maternal and child health, and women's economic empowerment. The results of these efforts, as we've heard from the previous speaker, is evident in your country's exceptional progress over the last 50 years in economic growth, poverty reduction, and achieving key development indicators. Poverty in Bangladesh, as we know, has steadily declined from 44.2% in 1991 to 20.5% in 2019. And we have seen the average growth rate in Bangladesh at 6% per year over the last 10 years, and continue to see a positive trajectory even during these challenging times of COVID. In addition, we're proud that Bangladesh has consistently placed a high priority on gender equality and the empowerment of women and girls. As you know, these are also shared priorities that Canada has. Today, as a result of this progress, Bangladesh approaches graduation from the UN's least developed countries list, a remarkable achievement, and we applaud you for this. Finally, I'd like to honor Bangabandhu's legacy of humanitarianism and our bilateral friendship in working with Bangladesh in support of the Rohingya people. Canada continues to deliver on our strategy to respond to the Rohingya crisis announced in 2018, which committed $300 million over 3 years to address humanitarian development and peace and stabilization needs. We have consistently condemned the continued violations of international human rights law and international humanitarian law in Myanmar. This has included vocal advocacy to ensure unhindered humanitarian access to address the root causes of conflict and to create the conditions necessary for the voluntary, dignified, safe, and sustainable return of refugees. We are also pursuing accountability for the crimes committed, as it is part of finding durable solutions to this crisis. And this includes our intent to intervene with the Netherlands in the Gambia's case at the International Court of Justice. I know that the eminent professors, John Packer and Payam Akavan, who we are engaged with as well on some of these issues, and know that they may speak to some of these elements as well. We have been watching very closely the recent coup in Myanmar, which has, set back the prospects for lasting solution to the Rohingya crisis based on justice and reconciliation. But through all of this, we really have to commend Bangladesh's humanitarianism in continuing to host the largest refugee population globally. This, when we know there has been challenges in the region and with other countries in terms of accepting these refugees as well. And during a time where we know in the last year with the pandemic has put enormous constraints economically, socially, and in other ways on Bangladesh as well. We want to reassure Bangladesh that we will remain a dedicated partner to addressing the needs of the Rohingya and the impacted host communities, including supporting efforts to alleviate humanitarian crisis, trying to encourage positive developments in Myanmar, ensuring accountability, and in turn trying to enhance international cooperation. I think the Rohingya situation is a testament to the principles and values of Sheikh Mujibur Rahman stood for, often at great personal sacrifice. And so on that note, would like to thank once again Bangladesh for your tremendous hospitality and humanitarianism. Almost 50 years after Bangladesh achieved independence, and as we reflect upon the legacy of Sheikh Mujibur Rahman 100 years after his birth, we are reminded of the power of individuals to bring about change and the responsibility we all share to make the world a better place. Our shared history and values provide the foundation for our nations to tackle the challenges ahead. In this light, in the months and years ahead, I look forward to our two countries working ever more closely together to protect the health and welfare of our citizens, to strengthen our economies, and to deepen the bonds of friendship. Many thanks.
Thank you, Jillian, for your very valuable speech. Now, at this moment, I would like to invite Professor John Packer, but before I invite him, let me give a very glimpse about his career. John Packer is a director of the Human Rights Research and Education Center and Neuberger Jessin Professor of International Conflict Resolution in the Faculty of Law at the University of Ottawa. He previously taught at the Fletcher School, Tufts University, USA, and the University of Essex, UK, held fellowships at Cambridge and Harvard universities, and has lectured at academic and professional institutions around the world. Over his 30 years career, he was an intergovernmental official for 20 years and has advised numerous governments, communities, and other actors in over 50 countries. From 1994 to 2004, he was senior legal advisor, then the first director of the Office of the OSCE High Commissioner on National Minorities. In 2012 to 2014, he was the Constitutions and Process Design expert on the standby team of mediation experts and continues and DPPA in a number of situations. The focus of his research and practice is at the intersection of human rights, including minority rights and security, notably conflict prevention and quiet diplomacy, international mediation, transitional arrangements, and institutional developments at domestic and multilateral levels. That's all about him. Now over to Professor John Packer.
To Canada, Dr. Rahman, for your kind invitation to me specifically. It's obviously a tremendous occasion to reflect upon the progress of Bangladesh in what I would say a short period of time, not only the 50 years since independence, born of a tragic and challenging struggle for independence, but also through surviving a genocide and coming out of it in a way which allowed Bangladesh to emerge in the subsequent years, despite all the challenges, in what now I think we can all agree is looking very much like a success story from the perspective of development. In particular, of course, in the last 12 years, which was detailed to us by Dr. Harun al-Rashid in his remarks. Let me turn my attention more specifically to the linkage between human rights and peace and development. This triangle of interrelated elements is crucial and is really a cornerstone of the post-Second World War rules-based international order. That peace is dependent upon a justice not only between states but within states. That there must be the opportunity for all persons within the jurisdiction of the state, not only citizens, but all persons who come within the jurisdiction of the state and however they come, to have the protection of the state, to have the facilities for full lives in dignity and freedom. And that specific idea of human rights is foundational to sustainable peace and to development. That humans, through their individual capacitization, to use an idea from Amartya Sen from the South Asian region, who taught us a lot about the importance that every human being, whatever their situation or natural endowments, talents and skills and so forth, talents and tastes, may benefit from investment in their capacitization, their development. And together, this creates stronger societies that generate social and economic development. A country like Bangladesh, I think it goes without saying, a very large part of your natural endowment is your human resource, your population, and the ingenuity, the insights from experience, the ways of living together, the cultural history are all valuable assets. And they need to be given the support and not repressed and not diverted through conflict or through fear or through suffocation. They need the oxygen of open societies, of democratic societies, to express their genuine interests, to pursue their needs, interests, and aspirations individually and together. What we know increasingly is that human rights respecting societies and democratic societies tend to sustain their own internal and external peace and stability. And they tend to generate economic well-being, which is also an obligation under the UN Charter of member states, not only to be peaceful in our relations between other states, but under Article 51 of the UN Charter, it's the obligation of every state to serve the well-being of the population of the state. So this connection is not only conceptually foundational, but I want to draw attention to Bangladesh's role in the international multilateral human rights regime, because over the last 20 years or so, it's also notable that Bangladesh has become a party to many of what are called the core human rights instruments internationally. And in some of them, Bangladesh has distinguished itself. For example, Bangladesh is a party to the International Convention on the Rights of Migrant Workers. Barely a quarter of the states of the world are a party to that convention. I know it has direct material interest for Bangladesh insofar as many Bengalis work abroad and they return remittances and so forth, and their own condition, which I have observed abroad in different parts of the world, such as the Gulf countries or elsewhere, is sometimes at risk. And therefore, the protection of migrant workers is not only a matter of protecting your nationals abroad, but is also a way of securing the kind of economic integration that accompanies that. So I'm not saying this is altruistic. This is based on interests of states and interests of Bangladesh. But I want to emphasize Bangladesh has done this. It has become a party to these international instruments. I mean, just to mention a few of them, of course, not only the Convention on the Rights of the Child, which all but one state in the world are a party to, but as I mentioned, the Convention on Migrant Workers, the convention, both of the two covenants, civil and political rights, and the economic, social, and cultural rights, underlining the fact that man does not live by bread alone, but man must have also religious freedom, must have also economic opportunities, social protections, education, and so forth. These are interrelated, and that was decided at the World Conference on Human Rights in 1993. The interdependence, interrelatedness of these human rights that form a kind of spectrum through which human development and sustainable peace can be pursued. Let me just take, for example, the Convention on the Rights of the Child, Article 28, 29, and 30, which tell us that the education of the child must be directed towards the full development of the child. And Article 30, which speaks about minorities and indigenous peoples, that their rights to not only their religious freedom, but also their cultural maintenance and identity, their use of language. I know that Bangladesh, of course, is from some perspectives, may be viewed as a relatively homogenous society in the sense of overwhelmingly Muslim, overwhelmingly Bangla speaking, and so forth. But of course, we know that Bangladesh has diversity within it. And that diversity is protected by entitlements in things like the Convention on the Rights of the Child or the covenants and so forth. And I think attentive to that not only demonstrates respect of these obligations, but contributes to richness. That it actually, what we know is that diverse societies, which is a fact of nature, diversity is a fact, but diverse societies which actually respond to that diversity in inclusive ways, in ways which value and support that richness, they tend to be prosperous. Because we all know that more heads are better than fewer, more perspectives together. Petitions and so forth. Specifically looking at the operational elements and in the structures of governance that facilitate that. Now, in that regard, let me add, first of all, a compliment that in the last few years, I think the position of the Bangladesh Commission on Human Rights, National Commission on Human Rights, as being an institution that's important to observe, and I would argue needs to be supported more. Similarly, other what are sometimes called fourth branch of governance, the electoral commissions, the civil service commission, these bodies that protect and support fairness in society, that help government work better for the people, labor boards and others that Bangladesh might consider. A number of states now have things like children's commissioners and ombudspersons and so forth. I have not, you will forgive me, I have not done a survey of the institutions that Bangladesh has, but I'm suggesting that some more attention to these kind of bodies that help the democracy work more fully and more smoothly. The Ombudsman institution, for example, was an invention not of democratic society, but actually of the Ottoman Sultan, who simply wanted administration to function better. And I think every government wishes to have greater efficiency, greater effectiveness. And if one is taking this approach that's human rights based, focused on democratic society, then I think specifically one should think about investing in and supporting these kind of institutions. That will make Bangladesh even more successful, even more robust as expectations increase amongst Bangladeshi society, as abilities of Bangladeshis for mobility, for consumption, for development increase, there will be more, let me call them small conflicts of competition, in the market and in all sorts of ways. And these need to be more productively mediated, early addressed, not just left for them to face courts and other traditional institutions. So I would commend that as an approach for Bangladesh in the coming years to invest more in this. The last thing, let me just say, and is the role of Bangladesh in the region, in the sub-region. And here again, let me congratulate Bangladesh because again, particularly in the last dozen years, there's been remarkable progress of your country from a low baseline, we all acknowledge, to now a trajectory of economic progress and development. And of course, your future development and your stability depends also on sub-regional stability. You cannot divorce yourself from the events in neighboring states and their impact, especially as greater economic and social integration takes place. Now, that brings me, of course, to the last point, which my predecessor, a commentator, raised, which is the unfortunate developments around the Rohingya and in neighboring state Myanmar, which is now facing very serious problems. So first of all, of course, the world acknowledges that Bangladesh is carrying an enormous burden in hosting the Rohingya population that fled, who were forced to flee their country of origin, and that's a long story, which you know well, we all know well. And again, I wish to underline the contributions Bangladesh has made. However, let me say that this does not yield an easy solution because you know from your own experience that efforts to just kind of push the Rohingya back and hope that things get solved inside Myanmar, that's not how things have been resolved. And I think what one really wants to make sure is that in the longer term, when the Rohingya go home, and they must go home, the Rohingya, they have a right to return, and they should return, and that's what they want to do. But in the correct circumstances and according to their voluntary basis and with guarantees of protection of their dignity, when they return, then we must all hope, and above all, Bangladesh must hope, that the Rohingya will be equipped to pursue their own development, not only for themselves, but in the sub-region. The trade potential, the relationships across the Naf River Delta and so forth, this is crucial. And Bangladesh stands to benefit tremendously and must think about that, must invest in that. And in that regard, I was glad to hear the remarks of the previous speaker that Canada has and will continue to stand with Bangladesh in this regard. Let me say that this connects specifically with another foundational instrument of international law, which is the Genocide Convention. And I know that Bangladesh is not just a state party, of course, but has a certain problematical situation vis-a-vis Myanmar, insofar as you have a reservation yourself regarding the proceeding at the International Court of Justice. But it does not preclude Bangladesh from taking steps, as Bangladesh has bound obligations, first of all, to do everything it can to contribute to the prevention of an ongoing genocide. And so I think working multilaterally, as I know Bangladesh has done through the OIC, through the United Nations and other institutions, but I would say that this may need to be stepped up because the Rohingya cannot wait. And we do not know what the result will be here in terms of Myanmar in the longer term. We hope it does not go in a very unfortunate direction under the current circumstances. But I would just say that that the government of Bangladesh, in my humble view, really needs to pay very close attention to its obligations in this regard and how it can actually facilitate the best outcome. I don't just mean a judicial determination of the court at The Hague. I mean using the Genocide Convention in a way which will put an end in the long term to the kind of policies in Myanmar which have given rise over 40 years to continue, since at least 1978, to exoduses in Bangladesh. That's the long-term stability that I think Bangladesh will enjoy. So thank you very much for allowing me the opportunity to address you. I know this is in part a celebratory moment, 50 years of success in your country since independence, and particularly the recent great development. But let me say, looking forward, the redoubling of commitment to a human rights-based approach, both within Bangladesh and within the region, I think will serve Bangladesh well and will actually move Bangladesh into a kind of leadership role, which is not only going to be welcomed by the international community, but I think will also generate new benefits for Bangladesh. Thank you very much for allowing me the opportunity to address you.
Thank you. Thank you, Professor Packer, for your expertise views on some issues, particularly the human rights issues. Now, at this point, I'm going to invite our next panelist. His name is Professor Sanjay Kumar Sinha. So let me give a very brief. He obtained his BSc Honors and MSc degrees in statistics from the University of Chittagong. He later joined the University of Chittagong as a lecturer and continued teaching before coming to Canada to pursue his higher studies. Professor Sinha obtained both MSc and PhD degrees in statistics from the Dalhousie. He was postdoctoral fellow at the University of Alberta during 2000 and 2001. He joined the University of Winnipeg and served as assistant professor of the statistics from 2001 to 2005. He has been a faculty member at Carleton University since 2005. So that's all about him. So over to Professor Sanjay Sinha.
Year of celebration to commemorate Father of the Nation, Bangabandhu Sheikh Mujib's 100th birthday. Sheikh Mujib loved his countrymen and fought for the political, economic, and cultural freedom of the people. We were very fortunate to have Bangabandhu Sheikh Mujib, a visionary leader, to lead the people of Bangladesh through many of his political and social movements, most importantly, the independence movement that brought the country long-awaited independence 50 years ago. Sheikh Mujib was assassinated in just a few years of Bangladesh's independence, the greatest tragedy in the country's history. He could not live long to see the steady progress of independent Bangladesh, but his dream for a peaceful and prosperous nation, lovingly called Sonar Bangla or Golden Bengal, lives on forever. His love for the people and his courage to stand against injustice will always be inspirations for us and for many generations to come. Bangladesh is yet fortunate to have Sheikh Hasina, Sheikh Mujib's daughter and the Prime Minister of Bangladesh, to carry the torch for him. With her leadership, Bangladesh has made remarkable progress in many social and economic aspects over the past few decades, and it is aspiring to be a middle-income country by its 50th birthday. Bangladesh has made a strong progress in poverty reduction, improved literacy rates, increased life expectancy through improved living standard, and social programs for vulnerable groups. It is experiencing a steady GDP growth of 8% in recent years, a strong indicator of its economic prosperity. Here I shall try to highlight a few of its great achievements in inclusive developments in recent years. Primary education for children. A notable progress has been made on the primary education for children in recent years. A recent World Bank study notes Bangladesh has made remarkable progress in improving access to education and is among a few developing countries to achieve gender parity in school enrollment. The US aid agency notes, in a country of over 18 million primary school students, Bangladesh has achieved near universal net primary enrollment, with approximately 98% of children of primary school age enrolling in school. Bangladesh has also achieved gender parity in access to education, and 50.9% of all enrolled students were girls in 2016. Bangladesh made significant progress in increasing its literacy rate. The World Bank data revealed that the literacy rate in Bangladesh was just 47.5% in 2001, but after 2 decades of education reform, its literacy rate has increased to 74.7% in 2019, which is a remarkable progress in improving or in providing access to education to the most vulnerable group in Bangladesh. Women empowerment. Bangladesh has become a role model in South Asia in women empowerment. The country observes a substantial change in the society due to women empowerment. Women's economic participation has increased significantly over the past few decades. The number of women working in the financial sector also increased significantly. According to the World Economic Forum's Global Gender Gap Report 2020, Bangladesh has ranked first in South Asia in the Global Gender Gap Index. The World Economic Forum notes, reflecting the magnitude of the challenge when it comes to gender parity, Bangladesh is the only one of the 7 South Asian countries studied to feature in the top 100 of the Global Gender Gap Index. It is worth noting that Bangladesh ranks 50th in the Global Gender Gap Index, whereas neighboring India ranks 112th. So Bangladesh's achievements are exemplary in reducing infant and child mortality, poverty reduction, increase in women entrepreneurship, education, and health. Rural development. An important indicator of inclusive rural development in Bangladesh is the widespread The program also introduced 1,000 solar irrigation pumps and 13 solar mini grids, as pointed out by the World Economic Forum. Solar energy is not only improving lives in rural areas, it is also reducing greenhouse gas emissions by avoiding fossil fuels. The World Economic Forum notes Bangladesh is one of the world's largest domestic solar energy programs. Off-grid solar home systems are improving living standards for people in rural areas. According to the World Economic Forum's Inclusive Development Index, in 2008, Bangladesh's overall Inclusive Development Index was 3.98, measured on a scale of 1 to 7, and was ranked 35th among 74 emerging economies in the world. So Bangladesh's rapidly growing economy is now prompting a changing image of the country worldwide. While the World Bank notes Bangladesh has an impressive track record for growth and development, aspiring to be a middle-income country by its 50th birthday. It has made remarkable progress in reducing poverty, supported by sustained economic growth. Based on the international poverty line of $90 a day, it reduced poverty from 43.8% in 1991 to 14.8% by 2016. Life expectancy, literacy rates, and per capita food production have increased significantly. Progress has been underpinned by steady growth in GDP. Bangladesh reached the lower middle income country status in 2015. In 2018, Bangladesh fulfilled all 3 eligibility criteria for graduation from the UN's least developed countries list for the first time and is on track for graduation in 2024. In conclusion, with proper strategic planning and strong determination, Bangladesh will be able to overcome its major economic challenges, achieve sustainable growth, and become an economic hub in South Asia. It has made remarkable progress in poverty reduction, women empowerment, rural developments and in providing universal education for children in rural areas. For keeping the economy on track, especially after this COVID-19 pandemic recession, diversification in industry is of paramount importance. Also, it is crucial to maintain a steady economic growth to accommodate a large number of new graduates entering the job market each year. So it is great to see Bangladesh has been progressing very well with a steady GDP growth over the past few decades or so. I wish Bangladesh continued success in its future endeavors to become a middle-income country very soon. Thanks again for giving me the opportunity to speak in front of you. Thank you.
Thank you, Professor Sanjay Kumar. We are waiting for our panelists, but in between we are now going to see a documentary on the economic development of Bangladesh. So ladies and gentlemen, we are now going to play the documentary on the recent development and progress of Bangladesh.
Bangladesh emerged as an independent nation in 1971 under the leadership of the father of the nation, Bangabandhu Sheikh Mujib Borsho. He laid the foundations of a prosperous Bangladesh. Imbued by his vision, the Honorable Prime Minister Sheikh Hasina is leading the nation on the highway of development. Investment development is one of our special initiatives, which has been translated into the formation of Bangladesh Investment Development Authority, BIDA, the Apex Investment Promotion Agency, under the leadership of the Prime Minister's Office. Bangladesh is lauded by global organizations like World Bank to be one of the fastest growing economies in the world. Goldman Sachs has listed Bangladesh among its next 11 countries. JETRO sees Bangladesh as low-cost and high-return manufacturing destination, and Bangladesh marked as the highest proportion of expansion if asked for the future business plan. Under the strong leadership and long-term stability, Bangladesh's economy has achieved remarkable growth. In fiscal year 2018-19, GDP grew by 8.2%, which is one of the highest in the Asia-Pacific region. With this trend in mind, Bangladesh aims to become an upper middle income country by 2030 and a developed country by 2041. The rise in FDI in the last 5 years portrays the confidence of investors. Bangladesh is a step ahead because of its huge domestic market and large consumer base. The number of affluent consumers is expected to grow over 10% annually. Bangladesh is enjoying a demographic dividend, which assures a large number of young and competitive workforces for the next several decades. Average wages in Bangladesh for all types of employees is one of the lowest levels among the countries in Asia and Oceania region. A wide range of fiscal and non-fiscal incentives such as reduced income tax, tax exemptions, and interest paid for foreign loans, repatriation facilities, etc. have been attracting investors to this land of profitability. The National Industry Policy 2016 states 7 high-trust sectors and 24 trust sectors, which offers greatest potential to drive the diversification of Bangladesh's economy. Chief among which is RMG. Bangladesh has one of the world's largest apparel industries. RMG accounts for over 80% of exports and 16% of the GDP. a stalwart industry of Bangladesh, leather is expected to grow and contribute to the economy through eco-friendly processing practices. BIDA is promoting the manufacturing of export leather products with relatively medium to large-scale investment. Bangladesh has an advantage when it comes to pharmaceuticals and manufacturing of active pharmaceutical ingredients (API). Propelled by cost-competitive, English-proficient young workforce, ICT is one of the fastest-growing sectors, covering software development, IT-enabled service, business process outsourcing service, and e-commerce. The government has endorsed this sector with the Digital Bangladesh movement and has formulated the ICT policy. Bangladesh offers a tropical climate suitable for producing variety of crops, fruits, vegetables and livestock, leaving an immense opportunity of processing both for domestic and export markets. Some of the key potential in agro-processing and food processing comes from manufacturing of processed vegetables and fruit products including frozen and ready-to-cook food products, manufacturing of milk and dairy products involving sophisticated technologies. Bangladesh mostly assembles consumer electronics such as mobile phones, home appliances, and electrical equipment like transformer, diode, both for domestic and export markets. Domestic market is forecasted to grow substantially at a rate of 15% per annum. Bangladesh automobile industry has experienced phenomenal growth and receives the utmost attention of global brands. The government is drafting the National Automobile Industry Policy to develop in favor of local assembly. Benefiting from cost competitiveness and workers, Bangladesh offers high potential in shipbuilding, including small and ocean-going vessels. Bangladesh has specialized investment promotion agencies that work dedicatedly to support all types of investment. BIDA is mandated to provide various services covering the various pre- and post-investment needs of businesses. BIDA streamlines the setting up of investment projects in easy-to-follow regulations, and there are no regulatory barriers to hinder the timeline of an investment.
We have established the digital one-stop service platform in BIDA, which is interoperable, and through this one-stop service platform, we want to provide transparent, contactless, smart service delivery to the private sector.
Bangladesh has time and again proven that the resilience of its people national assets.
I would like to invite all our foreign investors to visit Bangladesh and see for themselves the opportunity that lie for their investment.
And I would like to invite our respected High Commissioner to Canada, Dr. Khalilur Rahman. So before I invite sir, let me have a very brief about him. Dr. Rahman is a career diplomat from the 7th Bangladesh Civil Service Foreign Affairs batch. Prior to his appointment as the High Commissioner of Bangladesh in Canada, he held several senior positions in the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, supervising areas, among others, related to international trade, investment, and frontier technology and ICT. He also served in the Bangladesh Permanent Mission, Geneva, and Bangladesh High Commission in New Delhi. A medical graduate and PhD in public health, Dr. Rahman served in the World Health Organization on LIAN in several senior positions that included Director, Non-Communicable Diseases and Environmental Health in the WHO Southeast Asia Regional Office, New Delhi. as a New Delhi, head of WHO office in UN ESCAP, Bangkok, and lastly, as senior public health policy advisor. As coordinator for Tobacco Control Initiative, Dr. Rahman also led WHO's campaign for developing, enacting, and enforcing tobacco control legislation in the Southeast Asia region, following the adoption of the WHO Framework Convention on Tobacco Control. Dr. Rahman studied and was trained home and abroad in areas of international relations and diplomacy, international trade, international organizations, leadership, and management, as well as public health. He represented Bangladesh and participated in many international forums, seminars, and meetings and negotiations. He has extensive knowledge and experience in global UN and development issues. These are all about our High Commissioner, sir. Now the floor is over to His Excellency Dr. Khalilur Rahman.
I guess he has joined. If he has joined, yeah, I can see him. So I think, I just, I don't want to speak now. So Dr. Akaban, please take the floor and, made your statement and give us here, this very informative statement on the issue of inclusive development and the role our founding father, Bangabandhu Sheikh Mujibur Rahman, has played, and her able daughter, our current Honorable Prime Minister Sheikh Hasina, is playing to take his dream forward. So I just, give the floor back to you. So I'll speak after you. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Mr. High Commissioner, for this kind invitation, and apologies to you and our distinguished participants that I could not join you earlier. I'm very honored to make some brief remarks on the occasion of the 50th anniversary of the independence of Bangladesh, on the year of the centenary of the birth of Sheikh Mujibur Rahman Bangabandhu. And it makes me reflect on how far Bangladesh has come. A nation that was born amidst the horrific genocide of 1971 is one where we need to pause and reflect. Would anyone have imagined that half a century later, Bangladesh would have come as far as it has? But I want to reflect today on one particular aspect of what is occurring today in Bangladesh, an issue that is very near and dear to my heart, which is the plight of the some 1 million Rohingya refugees that have found haven in Bangladesh against the horrific campaign of ethnic cleansing and genocide perpetrated by Myanmar's notorious Tatmadaw. And of course, today we see the unfortunate reality of the violence unfolding in the streets of Yangon and other locations in that country. I'd like to reflect briefly on a conversation that I had some time ago with Her Excellency, the Honorable Prime Minister, Sheikh Hasina, when we were looking at the question of accountability for the crimes against humanity committed against the Rohingya. And it was in the summer of 2018 when I was on my way to Kutupalong, today, as you realize, the largest refugee camp in the world. And I recall a conversation I had with her about what could be done to promote accountability, or at least some measure of justice for these survivors. And I recall the
sincerity and concern with which she addressed this issue by remembering her experiences from 1971. And what she had said is, I remember what had happened in 1971. I remember the homes burning in the streets, the bodies of innocent people, the women who were violated. And in that respect, that was remarkable moment because it demonstrates how Bangladesh, with its own tragic and difficult history, has risen to the occasion, has become a champion of humanity in hosting some 1 million refugees. And I ask myself, which Western country in the prosperous global North would be willing to accommodate 1 million refugees? But beyond that, the leadership that Bangladesh has demonstrated, whether it's in respect of the proceedings now before the International Criminal Court, where the jurisdiction of the court is dependent on the territory of Bangladesh and its status as a party to the Rome Statute, or the tremendous support of Bangladesh in making possible the historic case that the Gambia has brought against Myanmar before the International Court of Justice. And you will remember the historic hearing in December of 2019 with the presence of Aung San Suu Kyi. And one hears time and again among the survivors, the women of Shanti Mohila and other groups in Kutupalong, just how much these efforts mean to them. So I will not take up more of your time, but I just wanted to once again thank you, Mr. High Commissioner, and dear colleagues and friends, for the opportunity to address you today. And just as we said, has made over the past 50 years, it's also an opportunity to pause and reflect on the humanitarian challenges that we face today. And in that respect, it would be my sincere hope that the international community would give ever more assistance and resources to Bangladesh as it exercises leadership in addressing this unprecedented humanitarian disaster. So thank you very much, and Khuda Hafiz.
Without the permission of the master of the ceremony, because our another speaker, he perhaps still engaged in his another meeting in Bangladesh. You know, these 10 days, special 10 days we have started yesterday, I think on 17th, to commemorate or celebrate the birthcentenary of Bangabandhu and the golden jubilee of our independence. So everybody is busy. So let me just, first of all, I think Professor Akaban was not introduced. I don't have, he's so famous that he does not need an introduction, but I can say that he's a very, very good friend of Bangladesh. I think, Dr. Akaban, can you kindly just say a few words exactly, because I don't have the text, I may make mistakes. In which university you are now currently? I think Messi College. I have something about you, but can you please just tell a bit about yourself? Thank you, sir.
Very briefly, I'm currently at the University of Toronto Faculty of Law, and previously a UN prosecutor, and I've had the pleasure of visiting Bangladesh on many occasions and to see a big part of the country. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. And I must say that, Professor Akaban is also a very good friend of Bangladesh and a very good friend of our Honorable Prime Minister. And as a lawyer, I think he played a key role when she was confined during this emergency. So we always consider you as a good friend. Let me just, say a few words about a few issues or observations raised by our distinguished panelists. First of all, I thank you all. And I thank our keynote speaker, Professor Harun Sir, Thank you so much for the wonderful paper. You know, when I was reading your paper, you talked about second revolution. You know, that is, you know, so dear to my heart. So I'm very happy to find those words, second revolution, that Bangabandhu started in January 1975. Unfortunately, he was killed. Otherwise, the development scenario of Bangladesh could have been different. So I really appreciate, you know, those part of your keynote speeches. It's wonderful paper. And also other speakers, I had, I think, discussion twice with you on certain issues. I fondly remember those discussions, and I owe to send you my comments on the paper. We talked about what we are going to do on Rohingya issue. I also had the opportunity to have a conversation over Zoom with Professor Akaban as well. And Julian is our colleague in the Global Affairs Canada. So we work together, and I really greatly appreciate their support. Professor Sanjay Sinha, I know you're from our country, but you know I never had the chance of talking to you, and I look forward to talking to you as well. I appreciate the statistics you have provided during your talk. So let me just make my observation on the observations you have made. Let me start with the last one, Professor Akaban, before I forget. You talked about genocide, you talked about genocide, and talked about this humanity. You know, our Honorable Prime Minister is known as Mother of Humanity. You know, under her leadership, she and the whole country extended, we extended our, open arms. Okay, come and we'll protect you. We took this 1.1 Rohingyas to our land, and we are trying our best to really support them in whatever way possible. We have, cut our, forest. We have deforested our land, which is against the principle of UN Convention on Climate Change, but in the sake of humanity. We have gone to that extent, and just this is because of also told about genocide convention. I think idea that whether Bangladesh can really think what can be done in terms of our being member party to this genocide convention. But it is again this developed North that they have their own say when and where the convention should work. So we don't know, but I like to add that the crisis in the Arakan province of Myanmar that drove 1.1 million Rohingyas. Not only that drove, they have been persecuted. There have been crime against humanity, genocide, and the developed North has not taken due or not given due consideration to this persecution, the genocide, and crime against humanity. So this is one thing, I think Julian is not there. Canada is a very generous country. They are providing a lot of support to sustain these people in Bangladesh. But I think this is not the solution. The solution lies where Professor Akaban is working. How to hold this Myanmar junta, Myanmar regime accountable for the crime committed against the Rohingyas, for the crime committed, in terms of genocide, in terms of the crime against humanity. So we really appreciate that kind of support from developed North, including Canada. Canada is there, they are providing a legal support, but the support now we need is to really strengthen that aspect of accountability of the government of Myanmar. Why I'm saying this thing? Because this 1.1 million Rohingyas is a not only a security threat, it's a development threat for Bangladesh. And that is impeding our development. And if you really want to be part of our development, if you want us to ensure inclusive development in the country, I think this issue need to be resolved as soon as possible. And the only solution lies in Myanmar, to hold the regime, hold the Janta accountable, and take these Rohingyas back with dignity, secure their sustainability in Rakhine State, in terms of developing, in terms of their livelihood. So that is the developed North. They are failing terribly in ensuring that part of the crisis. And I think for us, this Rohingya crisis is a development threat, and we want this to be resolved. And I think Canada and the developed North has a role to play. And I don't want to name anybody, but West has to now stop being obsessed with a pseudo-democratic leader like Aung San Suu Kyi. If I tell you, these Rohingyas are going to Bangladesh and coming back to Rakhine State since 1970s. And if we look at the history, until 2012, the Rohingyas, those who came to Bangladesh, many of them or most of them went back. And they went back under the military regime. But the time so-called pseudo-democratic leader Aung San Suu Kyi came to power, no Rohingya has gone back. Not only that, in 2017, when she is in power, she was in power, this massive influx of 800,000 Rohingyas took place. This genocide, this crime against humanity, this persecution took place under the leadership of Aung San Suu Kyi. And it's very sad, very unfortunate, the West is still obsessed with the pseudo-democratic leader like Aung San Suu Kyi. So while we support any democratic regime in Myanmar, we want to have a real democratic leader, not a leader like Aung San Suu Kyi, who can or will go again after the Rohingyas, after the minorities, and go for another persecution, another genocide, another crime against humanity. So this is one thing the West must think very carefully. So we all love democracy. So that's why Bangladesh is ready, and Bangladesh will be always ready to talk to the government of the day in Myanmar, whether it is army or whether it is a democratic dispensation. So that is one thing we look for from the developed North, and I think this is key to our ongoing development process in Bangladesh. So I think I covered a lot because two of our professors, Professor Akhaban and John Pakar, talked about Rohingyas as well as Julian. So I thought I must. And Bangladesh believes in democratic norms and institutional development. And you have mentioned about our Human Rights Commission, and I can't agree more that we should have a Children's Commission as well. But I must say that yesterday it was 101st birth anniversary of our Father of the Nation, Bangabandhu Sheikh Mujib. The two, to protect the rights of the children and to promote the welfare of children. And his, this efforts now being carried forward by his able daughter, the current Prime Minister of Sheikh Hasina. So she has taken a number of initiatives to promote the welfare of our children. protect their rights, and we will continue to do that. But having a Citizens Commission is a good idea. I can't, agree more. Then I think you also talked about this migrants' rights. Bangladesh is on the forefront on the issue of migration and development. We do value the role of migrants in development. It is not only in Bangladesh. If you look at India, if you look at Pakistan, if you look at Philippines, and look at Indonesia, any country, the migrants are really playing an important role in the socio-economic development of their motherland, and not to forget, and equally important, they are playing very important role in development in the country of destination. So this is a global responsibility, and if we really can ensure the rights of migrants, then I think we can ensure this inclusive development, not only in the sending countries, but also in the destination countries. So this is one thing we can't agree more. And we want all UN member states to be part of this UN Convention on Migrants' Rights. I just, let me now talk about a bit what Bangabandhu has said and did. When Bangabandhu took over the country, I think in 1971, he inherited an economy of just $8 billion in today's value. Today, Bangladesh has an economy of around $320 billion. So, that's far we have come. And as our governor of Bangladesh Bank said, when he took over, there was not a single dollar in our funds. Now, Bangladesh has the highest amount of foreign currency reserve. It is $43 billion. Definitely, we can't compare with India, but in the South Asia, it is the second largest. So, if you say that, so I should say that Bangabandhu's committed leadership that led our economy started moving forward, despite many insurmountable challenges, including war-ravaged physical and social infrastructures, and virtually no regulatory institutions. We knew that there was a shortage of food grains following national and international natural shocks. Unfortunately, I don't want to elaborate on those two things. But the people of the country started believing in their power as well, and that was the time when he was killed. And I should say that the phrase Sonar Bangla that we always attribute. It is common in speeches and writings about Bangabandhu, well before the independence of Bangladesh, because he was always thinking about the re-establishing Sonar Bangla, but this was not a mere political rhetoric for him. This aspiration was based on his consciousness about the past glory of the land. He knew that only a few centuries back, Bangladesh was really a land of prosperity, a golden century. It was the country was famous for its agricultural production, about his fertile land, riverine geography. So he always thought of developing a Sonar Bangla. Just 8 years, exactly 8 years, before his 8 months before his death, he said something. This is very interesting. I'll just tell you. I think I wrote somewhere. Let me just find it out. He said about the Sonar Bangla: to build a golden Bengal, we need golden people. and we have many problems. To solve those problems and to build a happy and prosperous Bangladesh, the people needs to work hard to increase production. He said this on 15th of December 1974. Exactly 8 months later, he was killed. The keynote speaker is a resilient nation. We have proved it again and again. We have proved it in 1952, in 1954, 58, 66, 69, and of course in 71, during our War of Independence. And Bangladesh now, as you have seen the video, this is a land of possibilities and potentials. And in the video, you have seen how Bangladesh is progressing. I'm talking about the second video. So I believe that as Bangabandhu loved his people, so does our current Prime Minister Sheikh Hasina. Loving people and believing in the ability of people is our strength. And that's what Bangladesh is doing. Because we have a demographic advantages, and we really want to build our human resources, and they are our main potentials. So Bangladesh will be a land of potentials, land of opportunities, and our people will be our main assets. So that's why our this bid executive chairman talked about investing in Bangladesh. So it is not only the land, but also you'll find people at a very cheaper cost, those who can be utilized, who can be employed in those investment, these industries. So that's why we really encourage our investors to come to Bangladesh and to invest in Bangladesh. So I just want to end by saying that as you have seen in the video, the dream Bangabandhu dreamt, that is building a Sonar Bangla, it was stopped for 21 years. Initially 15 years of military rule, then another 5 year of democratic rule. That I should say that was not basically, the government was not basically run in the spirit of the ideals, principles of our liberation war. So when the current Prime Minister came to power in 1996 in June, the country started moving following the principles and ideologies of our War of Independence. And that is going on now. And that's how we have started again realizing the unfinished agenda of Bangabandhu. We have started to rebuild the dream Bangabandhu dreamt until his death. So under the visionary leadership of the current Prime Minister Sheikh Hasina, Bangladesh, as we have seen, has achieved outstanding socio-economic progress. Under her directions and policies, we have established, so many development, potentials in the country. She has established a digital Bangladesh because, without, this digitalization of any country now, nothing can work. Apart from this socio-economic development, we have, as we have seen that we have now established 100 special economic zones, 28 high-tech parks, this Bangabandhu Satellite 2, Deep Seaport, Padma Bridge, this LNG terminals, expressways, nuclear power plants, among others, that are being implemented. And today we have become a self-respecting country in the world. In line with the Honorable Prime Minister's visionary direction, we are tirelessly implementing the Vision 21 and Vision 2041. The Vision 2041 talked about transforming the country a developed nation by 2041 or before 2041. Dr. Sanjay Sinha already talked about our graduation. With colors, Bangladesh has been evaluated twice to be graduated as middle income country. The last one, the second one was in February 26. We have qualified in all the criteria to be graduated to a developing country. So we are going ahead, and under the leadership of our Prime Minister, we have also developed Delta Plan 2100 to build a hunger-free, developed, prosperous Bangladesh as envisioned by our father of the nation, Bangabandhu Sheikh Mujib Borsho. And through these visionary goals and under her dynamic leadership, we will definitely be realizing the dream of Bangabandhu. I think in the video you have seen that by 2030, Bangladesh will be 28th economy. But if you look at the World Economic Forum website, you'll find that they predicted Bangladesh will be 24th economy by 2030. So we are on target, and we are on target to really build a hunger-free, developed, prosperous Bangladesh, to turn Bangabandhu Sonar Bangla again, I should say, the golden Bangla. I like to appeal to develop North, not only develop North, because there is also a lot of South-South cooperation these days. We are also developing our partnership with the countries in the South, and that is also very important. I think John Parker also talked about this, the regional partnership, the rights-based development in the region. I think this is also important. We have been a very active member of our regional cooperation SARC, and Bangladesh, because of two countries, sometimes SARC is not really moving. So Bangladesh has taken the initiative to make SARC work, to mediate between the countries who have differences. So Bangladesh is a key mover in bloc, regional organization, and to develop as a region, because Bangladesh believes in the fact that a country cannot develop alone. Leaving your neighbors poor, that is not inclusive development. Today we talk about why migration occurs, because some country has a better, development status. People, it's natural. From Bangladesh, people wants to come to Canada. But many countries are there from where people may like to go to Bangladesh now. So that's why we need to develop together. And that's why I think this regional bloc, regional organization is so important. We are also part of this BIMSTEC, this is another economic bloc. Even we are working with Myanmar. Again, I'm talking about Myanmar because Myanmar is a very important country for Bangladesh. It's a very, I think it is in the interest of Myanmar, if they really want to develop, to work with Bangladesh to resolve this Rohingya crisis, and both the countries can really develop so fast, because we had these disputes on maritime boundary. We have resolved that. So the only irritant in this relationship between Bangladesh and Myanmar is the Rohingya crisis. And I think, the developed North is not too serious, because if you really punish a regime, how they can invest in Myanmar? Even this country, the Canadian Pension Fund has invested in Myanmar. Even during this crisis, how you can do this thing? You are empowering, you are, basically strengthening the hands of the regime there. And they will use their investment and they'll go after the Rohingyas. They'll persecute them, they'll go for their own side, they'll make time against humanity, and they'll drive them to Bangladesh. So this is a double standard. The West is basically taking or showing in terms of the solution of the Rohingya crisis. I remember this Lord Ahmed of UK the minister, deputy minister, he hosted an international press summit for multi-year planning of Rohingyas stay in Bangladesh. We rejected. We have rejected, we reject it now, and we reject it tomorrow. Bangladesh does not believe in multi-year planning for Rohingyas in Bangladesh. Bangladesh only believes in the repatriation of the Rohingyas, if possible today, if not yesterday. And West is not doing that. West is playing with this crisis, and I can tell you, I was in a webinar. One journalist, I think our Prime Minister went to USA, and one journalist asked him, do you think that this Rohingya issue will be a secret issue? And his answer was, always there are extremist that will come from this Rohingya crisis. It's maybe a problem for Bangladesh today. It will be a problem for the region tomorrow. And day after tomorrow, it will be an international security issue. So this is time for the developed North to really do something to ensure that the Rohingyas are repatriated to their homeland Rakhine State in Myanmar with dignity. They should compel the Myanmar regime to secure a safe and sustainable environment in the Rakhine State. People can go back immediately. They can live there in peace. They can, build their own life with dignity and peace. So that is my last sentence. That if we really want to help Bangladesh, I mean, if the North, developed North wants to help Bangladesh to really facilitate its efforts in ensuring inclusive development, they need to resolve the Rohingya crisis as soon as possible. That is a development threat. And I think it is good for Bangladesh, good for Myanmar, good for the developed North. So on this day of, we are celebrating, and this is the second day of celebration of specific 10 days celebration for bicentennial of Bangabandhu, our father of the nation, and the golden jubilee of our independence. So that is my plea, and my take is that the crisis should be resolved as early as possible. That will be a huge, I should say, contribution of the developed North to partner with Bangladesh in its effort to secure and promote inclusive development and to build the Sonar Bangla dreamed by our father of the nation. And this dream is being realized under the able leadership of our Prime Minister, Sheikh Hasina. Thank you so much for attending this this seminar. I know I did not read from any written text, but that is something from my heart. I tried to speak by heart and mind, and I really thank you all for being with us, and we look forward to working with all of you. And Professor John Packer, I'll send the draft today about this concept note. It is in my computer. I always I want to do it, then I forget, and I really want to work with you and Professor Akaban and all of you in terms of the resolution of Rohingya crisis as soon as possible. I think if there is any discussion, I think, sir, yes, sir.
May I just say just a few words. First of all, I would like to express my thanks and gratitude to you for inviting me to present the keynote paper to today's seminar. And I am really impressed by the statements and observations that you have made, taking into consideration of the observations and comments made by the distinguished members of the panel. Well, Bangabandhu Sheikh Mujibur Rahman, had there been no Bangabandhu Sheikh Mujibur Rahman, there would have been no independent Bangladesh. That we can tell you
for certain. We had been under foreign rule, spanning over 1,000 years, and Bengalis had never been an independent nation until 1971. And we became an independent nation, and we have an independent state in the name of People's Republic of Bangladesh through a war of liberation under the leadership of Bangabandhu Sheikh Mujib Borsho. He was not just a great Bengali or father of the nation of the Bengali nation. He was a great humanist, as you said, and he stood for human rights all over the world. You know, he was for the oppressed people and those who has been recognized by UNESCO and incorporated into UNESCO's International Memory of World Heritage as a special, space. And it is only his 7th-month address, and nobody's address or speech is being recognized in such a way. Bangabandhu was a great humanist, and he has two visions. One, an independent state for the Bengali nations, and second, he wanted to see a smile on the face of the downtrodden people, the prostitutes. So that was his vision, and he used to call it by, constructing or building Sonar Bangla, then there will be peace, prosperity, and happiness for everybody secured. And Bengal, we had a very long history, a very long tradition, and a very rich culture, you know. And Bengal was a land of abundance, as you know. Definitely, I am sure that all of you know. That's why Bengal attracted the Dutch. It was because of Bengal's abundance. And he used to call it Sonar Bangla. Just one more information for you. As a part of celebration of Bangabandhu's birthday, that is the celebration of his birth centenary. This just in the last month, the present government, headed by his elder daughter, namely Sheikh Hasina, our honorable Prime Minister, they have built 70,000 houses and distributed among the homeless people in the country. 70,000. Then the focus of the government is always on those who are marginalized, who are helpless, who are poor, and always at the bottom of the society, not on the top. And whenever we talk and discuss about inclusive development in a country, particularly in Bangladesh, may I request go through our constitution, which was framed by the father of the nation within 10 months from victory in the War of Liberation, that was adopted on 4th of November 1972 and came into implementation from 16th December 1972. If you go through the constitution, you will see that it is one of the finest constitution which provides inclusive ideal of development in every provisions. It empowerment of women, social security for the marginalized people, and so many things are there. So this is the ideal of the father of the nation, that the development must be inclusive and it must include all strata of the people. I think I should also appreciate and thank the distinguished members of the panel, particularly Professor Julian, then Professor John Paka, then also Professor Akaban, and needless to mention that Professor Sanjay K. Sinha, he is from Bangladesh,
and born in Kumilla. So definitely he will represent and own Bangladesh. There is no doubt about it. So I would like to thank all of you for your compliments and comments, and I am very happy to see that you all are very well aware of what is going around in Bangladesh. But I did not realize that the Rohingya issue will come up in the discussion so much and to a great extent. That's why I skipped that issue. Now I realize that at least there should have been some kind of one or two sentences focusing on the Rohingya issue. Anyway, thank you very much, and I feel really privileged and honored to talk to you and to see you. And I hope we will, meet somewhere sometime in future. And you all are most welcome to Bangladesh. Unless you visit Bangladesh and see in your own eyes, you cannot imagine that how much we are progressing, keeping in view what the things were even in the aftermath of War of Liberation. We had to start from zero, empty, everything, nothing was there. So empty-handed, we have to start. And from that point of view, the development is really, really remarkable and spectacular. So thank you very much for your kind support. And before I conclude, I must also appreciate and pay our tribute to the people of Canada, and particularly to the government of Pierre Trudeau. In the year 1971, he and his government extended all out moral and other kind of support towards our War of Liberation, and we always acknowledge with gratefulness. Thank you. Thank you very much, Your Excellency, and thank you all the members of the panel.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir. You rightly said that, sir. He was such a great leader that he led all the democratic movements in Bangladesh, and under his leadership, we got the sovereign and secular independent country. You have rightly said that Bangabandhu always believed in uniting the people and leading them towards the desired direction of inclusive development as the only way to true prosperity. So he intended to lead the country in this direction and was well on his way. And within few years of independence, I think he got only 3.5 years, he succeeded in materializing the growth potential of Bangladesh to a significant extent. And after that, we can say about drought in 1974, the people of the country started believing in their own power as well. And that was the time these killers struck him and killed him. Otherwise, Bangladesh, it would have been a development, different development story for Bangladesh. But thanks God, as I say, Prime Minister Sheikh Hasina, as he's able to try, is now following in his footsteps and has been able to successfully establish Bangladesh as a model for sustainable and inclusive development for the rest of the world. And today it is called the development miracle, the role model for development. So Bangladesh and the government and the people, we all look forward to the partnership of the developed North to be real partner for Bangladesh to help us achieve the dream, Bangabandhu dream, that is the Sonar Bangla. So I once again thank you all, sir, for being with us and bear with us. I think it's a bit long, but I think still we enjoyed your contributions, and I think many of the things you have said, I have taken note of it. I think as some suggestions, advices are really very good, and I'll pass them on to our concerned ministry and through the foreign ministry if they can have a look at it. And as sir, I think it's good that you have not written anything about Rohingya, because otherwise no other person would have been would have found anything to talk about. But there are people here in this country, they're very concerned about the issue of that I can feel. And Professor John Packer, we are also trying to assess the damages, itemized damage cost Bangladesh is paying due to this crisis. So we are on the issue, and this crisis does not deviate us from our destination of inclusive development. So that should be our place. So, sir, if there is no more comments, observations, without giving the floor back to our master of the ceremony, personally, I would like to thank you all once again on behalf of the High Commission to be part of this celebration, and we look forward to seeing you soon, maybe in another seminar or in another event. And please bear with us, and please be part of our development journey. So thank you so much. Have a good day in Canada, and sir, good night for you in Bangladesh. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen. We have heard valuable comments and speeches from our respected panelists, and I would also like to thank Our Excellency, the High Commissioner of Bangladesh, for his observations made out of the speeches made by our respected panelists. Unfortunately, we missed one of our panelists today. He joined earlier of this session, but because of some engagement, he could not come back. But anyway, so this kind of seminar always facilitate us to learn many things. So again, I thank to all the participants, all the guests, and respected panelists for their valuable speeches. Thank you all.